And welcome to Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. I'm Steve Swat with the Sacramento Report, and in the next few minutes we're going to talk about a new tax everyone will be paying as of July 1st, but you probably don't realize it yet. My guest this segment is George Runner, a member of the State Board of Equalization. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks, Steve. Good to be back.
We should say at the outset, the board really administers some 30 taxes and fees statewide. The biggest, the sales and use tax, of course, not the income tax. That's the Franchise Tax Board. And one of the taxes that you are involved with is the gas tax.
Yes.
And it didn't make a lot of ink, a lot of press when it was voted on by the board on a 3-2 vote, but the gas tax is going up as of July 1st.
Yeah, it's really a very confusing process. It was put into place about 3 years ago when the legislature was trying, and the governor at that time, Governor Schwarzenegger, was trying to find $1 billion to help balance the budget. And so what they did is they took some money out of a road fund, about $1 billion, and switched it over to the general fund. In order to do that, they had to change the kind of the formula as to how gas tax is charged, and it's both sales tax and it's excise tax. Excise tax goes to fixing the roads, and so when they did that, they created this whole very sloppy, I think, very hard to understand process, and the board each year approves a tax now on gas.
It's called an adjustment, right? But the board has to look at it and basically weigh all these different factors, and that's why the tax is going up 3.5%.
Yeah, and I voted against it, and because it's a formula that includes both looking back and also looking forward. Most of the tax that they put on that the majority of the board voted for was about looking ahead, projecting gas prices. I think it's almost impossible to project gas prices, and that's why I ended up voting no.
Part of it is also consumption, isn't it? And isn't consumption below expectations?
Yeah, and that's an interesting issue because it's a formula about how much gas is going to be sold, both in regards to both price and consumption. And so what happens is really Californians end up getting punished for driving cars that are more economical in that process, in that formula.
And the argument is because there is less consumption, there's less money coming in terms of the taxes we pay on the gas, and therefore we have to up the rate a little bit because it has to be supposedly revenue neutral.
That was the original intent of the bill. It had to be revenue neutral. In order to do that, you had to both look at price and consumption when they did that. So in reality, people may think that they're making decisions in regards to a car that's more fuel efficient. But in doing that, the board ends up, by the legislation, having to take that into consideration because at the end of the day, apparently nobody wanted the government to go with less money when it comes to this issue.
You were a member of the state Senate. Known as many Republicans are, anti-tax, and I know you sponsored legislation in the last session that would have capped the gasoline tax, but it didn't go anywhere.
No, and in fact, when I was in the legislature 3 years ago, when this particular bill issue, I voted against this swap. I knew it would be hard and confusing. And one of the other issues, I had sponsored a bill last year in the legislature to cap the tax on gas at $4 a gallon. See, when Californians are struggling to pay their bills and gas prices are going up, I don't think government should get a windfall, and that's really what happens under this scenario.
But technically it's revenue neutral, so one tax goes up but another one goes down, isn't
that right?
Well,
it's revenue neutral to a degree, but the fact is when prices go up, the fact is there is a section of that gas tax that continues to climb, and that's the sales tax portion to local government. And I believe the government ought to be able to live on that $4 a gallon, and anything over that we ought to be able to get some reprieve to.
All right. Well, a complicated subject, but everyone's going to feel it starting July 1st.
Absolutely, unfortunately.
And George Runner, thanks for coming in and talking about it.
Thank you.
And thanks to our viewers for watching Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. A reminder, you can see this and other interviews on My Government on Demand, also on YouTube. I'm Steve Swat. Have a great day.